What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Montana Method podcast one more time. As always, your host, Nelson Rodriguez Jr., author, creator of Montana Method. Today, here with a very special guest, Miss Binodini
Vinodini Dasi.
Dasi. I know her I knew her in a past life, so I knew her by another name.
It's true.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Very excited to have you here. She's a very gifted person in many ways. You guys will see why. Met her a few years ago. Great chance to reconnect with her. We're going to get into everything she's been up to, all her content, a little astrology for beginners, and that kind of stuff. So if you're into the spiritual world, you will love this episode. Elijah, kick the intro.
I've been out here hustling all my life. Every day we get into it. Really out here in these streets. That's day and night. Like there's nothing to it. When I was going through it, dog, I never got your call. I never asked for nothing, no. But now I want it all. I promise I'ma do it. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much for having me here.
You're very welcome.
I've been very excited to have a conversation with you.
For sure. Yeah, we planned this like a year ago. It's been a while.
Yes.
Actually, funny enough, the way I forgot which platform. I think it was TikTok. I'm never scrolling on TikTok. And one day I was just maybe like a year ago I was scrolling and then I was like, what? That's not her name. Who is she? Wait, I know her. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
And then we connected again, and then I saw that you were starting your podcast, which was also really cool. Very awesome that you're following your dreams and you're going for it and you're doing it. And I remember when we talked, you were like, it's happening. I'm like, okay, we got to do an episode together one day.
Yeah, and then it all aligned.
It all aligned now.
My guest this week canceled super last second, and it all literally, you texted me and I was like, oh, I can't have her this Friday. And 5 minutes later, hey, I can't make it. Oh, perfect. See
Es que Dios es grande. God is big.
Bigger than anything. It's funny because I get lost. I'm human, right? So I get lost in the problems of daily life every day, right?
Yes.
What we think are problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, man, what's bigger than God, bro? Really?
Nothing.
So what am I worried about?
Exactly.
You know?
Sometimes we just need to learn to be human.
Woof.
We don't need to learn to be superheroes. We don't need to learn to be, to go save the world, to go and be the most of this. In reality, it is a false ego that is telling us that we can be just like God. And then when we find ourselves frustrated because we're not just like God, and then life humbles down and says, hey, you can't just do everything. You're not a superhero. You are a human being.
100%.
And that could be a very humbling situation, but not a lot of people take it lightly because our society teaches us to puff up our ego,
Yeah.
Society is not teaching us to understand our limitations and understand that that's okay. If we are imperfect, there is no problem with that. So I sometimes feel like we end up in these frustrations to want to be so perfect that we drive ourselves crazy.
It's funny, in the last episode I had with Martha Bueno, she's brought up a good point that it's somehow we know we're not perfect and we're the most imperfect beings that have ever been created, yet we judge everyone that's not perfect. And
Absolutely.
How does that make any sense? There's not a perfect thing on this planet, not one. So how are you going to judge everybody that's not perfect? You're literally contradicting yourself.
Well, that's what the false ego does. It makes us completely confused and bewildered. When we identify ourselves with our bodies, with our minds, with our thoughts, which are actually something impermanent, because this body, you're not going to have it for eternity. Your mind is going to be gone the moment that you die. So what is permanent in our lives? What is something that can stay forever? And that's what our mind is constantly looking for. That's why our mind never gets satisfied. Your mind says, oh, if we just get that bigger car, and I endeavor. Okay, fine, I got the car. And for 1 second you feel happy, but the mind is already, but what if I get a bigger car? And it's this constant, that's what we really call the rat race. That's really the rat race. That your mind is like, I'm looking and I'm searching for something that it could be forever. And even with our jobs, I want to find a job that is secure, that is there forever, but boom, pandemic happens, nothing is secure. And so the mind gets really frustrated. And then the ego is the one that tries to manipulate things, control things, judge things, and the ego believes itself to be God. So that's when we really run into a lot of problems. A lot of suffering in our lives really comes from our bodily identification, that we identify so much with this thing that is so impermanent. The moment that we start identifying ourselves with our soul, which is the part of us that is the most permanent one, the infinite part of ourselves, the infinite parcel of God that we have within us, that is when we find liberation. We find liberation from all these limitations of the material world, because this material world is supposed to be limited. That's the reason why we have death and birth. It's a limitation. That's why all the things in this world have a beginning and an end. All of them. While in the spiritual world, things are forever. Things are infinite.
That's so hard for a human to conceptualize.
Absolutely.
It's eternity, right? Like, what is 72, 82, 90 years if you're lucky in the in the spectrum of eternity? It's nothing.
Nothing. Absolutely
it's
nothing.
less than an ant on an anthill on this planet. It's less than that. It's
so imagine we attach ourselves so much
to
whatever.
Nothing, really.
I attach myself to this car, this thing. You know, people think that they own a house, but the house really owns you.
Owns you.
You really think you own things, but they actually end up owning you.
One of the most purifying moments in my entire life. I was going through a really, really dark time in my life. Arguably, one of the worst. My grandfather was rotting in a hospital. He was dying. And he was in hospice. He was in the process of dying. So it was not, oh, maybe he'll make it. Maybe he won't. No, he's not going to make it. So I lived with him. So, and my mom doesn't live in Miami. Like, my family, my immediate family doesn't live here besides my father. So I had to move. Like, I had to move all his stuff out, move all my stuff out alone, by myself, no help. So basically, I was forced to decide what to keep and what to throw away. And I'm sorting through all his things. Mind you, it's my grandfather. So, and my family and my friends know both my grandfathers had a very heavy influence in my life. Especially my mother's father, that we have the same name.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we lived together for over a decade. So I'm here deciding what of his to keep and what of his to throw away. And just, I felt my soul leave my body for a second, and I was just like, this is what he valued in life. This is meaningless. These are the things. He was a very materialistic person. And he's rotting in a hospital, and I'm throwing away all his shit. I'm throwing away all his stuff.
That's where it ends up. He can't take anything of that with him.
Even though it was a dark thought and it was a dark place in my life, it was the most liberating feeling I've ever felt in my life. Because I understood now that all that means nothing. What mattered was the times we spent together, the good memories we had as a family, the legacy he did or did not leave behind, right? Those are the things I would consider important, not the material possessions that at the end of your life aren't going to,
Absolutely.
aren't going to be taken with you.
Absolutely. And that's the greatest illusion. And it's actually the way that they also rob our ability to focus ourselves into our spiritual path. Because we're so distracted with these things. We're so distracted with the stuff. We're so distracted with the wants and the wants. And yes, we get it, but we can't hold on to these things forever.
100%.
It's almost like who's going to be the one that dies with the most toys? That's the one who wins. But nobody can take that with themselves at their place. You know, it's just been very liberating because since I've actually started to dig really deep in understanding what is the concept of spirit, is when I actually started living my life with more purpose. Because if your whole purpose of your life is to make things, like to gain things, to get money, to get more things, and to get more things, is not, you're always going to feel empty. There's always going to feel this emptiness. That's why they say, you know that rich people are not eternally happy. So we know that that's not the answer either. I really believe that nowadays...
Where's the balance between ambition and purpose?
The balance between ambition and purpose is when you actually understand that your will is not your will, but that your will has been put here for you to listen to a higher will. Then it's a bigger purpose. You're not just doing it for yourself and your selfishness because you want to be recognized, because you want to be famous, because you want to get the applause. But you understand that there's something bigger working through you, and you are going to put your will on that calling that is bigger than yourself. And then your ambitions are purified. Whenever we dovetail all our negativeness, all our sins, and all our negative things, we dovetail them towards God, they become purified. For example, greed. Greed is very difficult. Greed is very, very difficult. But if you become greedy to know more about God, then it becomes purified. Or maybe if you have really big ambitions, you want to be something, you want to be a leader of something, a CEO or something, a business. Great, you can do it. But if you are not walking with God, most probably you will cheat, because if no one's looking at you, if you feel like God's not looking, so I can get away with it.
That's the fallacy of man.
Exactly.
God's always watching.
God's always watching. So as you get more power, as you get more money, as you get more influence, and as this happens, and if you don't understand that I'm not God, God is God, I'm just a tool, then they start believing they're God. And because they believe they're God, they believe that they can do whatever they want. I recently heard like all the things that happened to P. Diddy and everything that he's going through right now, because he felt like he was untouchable. He had all the levers everywhere.
He forgot he was flesh and bone and he was just a man.
Exactly.
Agreed.
And that,
when you lose sense of the grandness of what's, when you lose sense of things that are bigger than you, like the creative force and this whole existence, when you lose, even if you don't believe in a God and you believe in some sort of force, but as long as you understand that there's something bigger than you, if you lose that side of that and understanding of that, that's when morality, ethics, consequences, none of that is clear anymore. All of that becomes very hazy, and that's when people do bad things to other people.
absolutely.
Because if there's no consequences, if I don't have to face any punishment or any repercussions for the actions I take, then I can do anything. There's no morality. There's no consideration for other people. Who cares?
Absolutely.
Nothing's gonna happen to me, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's
just-
actually the law of the Satanist. Do what thy will. Do whatever you want. This is a place where you can come and you do whatever you want. If you want to kill, if you want to rape, if you want to do this, hey, no one's watching. If you don't get away with it, cool. But the thing is that you, like, the bondage that you're doing to your soul. Because, for example, in astrology, as an astrologer, I understood that every single soul that comes here has impressions from past lives. This is the reason why when we are born, we're kind of good at something. Like we just are natural at certain things, is because we actually have mastered these things in a past life. We have these impressions from a past life. And so those impressions get imprinted in your soul. And that is kind of like the comfort zone. And you can also create negative impressions. As we were talking, for example, if you expose yourself to something beast-like, like bestiality, or like really heavy things, or like really degraded stuff. Yeah, sure, you're doing it, no one's watching, nobody's doing anything, but you are not aware of the impressions that you have just left in your soul. And these impressions are heavy. And they will bring karmic repercussions to your life. So, to be honest, if you really want to be a rebel in this life, be a saint. Because nowadays, everybody's degraded, baby. It's easy to be degraded. It's so simple. It's so easy. I mean, we're even degrading little girls at such a young age with social media. There's more Sephora. Sephora became a playground. So it's like this degradation of humanity.
I don't know when decency became a commodity.
Exactly.
I don't understand it at all.
And as we become even more embedded with the social media and stuff, actually people have become experts of selling their integrity. Selling their integrity for something. For power, for money, for this or that. My integrity, I wipe my ass with it. Who cares? I can show, if I get 1 million likes, if I get 1 million views of me being completely degraded.
So whatever.
So
My
whatever.
my soul has a price. Exactly.
My soul has a price. And so this is where we're seeing. But you know what, Nelson, this has actually been predicted. This situation that we are right now has been predicted by the Vedas. The Vedas are the most ancient texts, sacred texts that we have in the world.
Some of you are about to get offended. Oh my god.
And that's okay. Like,
so you
like
know,
because this is the thing.
Mahabharata,
Yes.
the Anunnaki. You know, you've
Oh,
gone
yes.
you've gone down this rabbit hole.
Oh yes, yes.
Oh.
But I love the fact that you're saying that. Oh, some people may get offended. Well, if you get offended, I want you to just realize I'm not offending you. I'm offending your false ego, whatever you identify yourself with.
So funny enough, I'm gonna try to break this down because, well, let's go to commercial break. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, the familiar voice of your host, Nelson Rodriguez Jr., taking a quick detour to talk to you about the best jewelry shop on the internet, Gus Villa Jewelry. Let's be honest here, guys. Jewelers in Miami are super shady sometimes. I've even been ripped off once or twice by one of these self-proclaimed alchemists that ended up being these weirdos who sell you a bunch of stuff that make your neck and your fingers turn black. Let me tell you, after I met my boy, Gus Villa, he elevated my bling game. The Gus Villa team, these guys are more than just jewelers. These guys are magicians, turning metal and stone into your next head turner. Trust me, these pieces shine so much you can see them from outer space. Head over to GusVillaJewelry.com, and because you're a Monty, that's right, part of the Montana Method crew, you can use the promo code Montana to snatch 5% off your order. You don't just get hooked up with some shine, you get to have some dough in your pocket. Double whammy. So guys, what are you waiting for? Elevate your jewelry game. Show the world what you got. You got some style, you got some bling, you're all blinged up. Come on back after you do that. We've got more Montana Method Madness waiting for you. Now back to the podcast. For those of you that don't know, I am Cuban, and a very popular religion within my culture is the Afro-Cuban religion known as Santeria, which is not the right terminology, but for the sake of all you trying to make everybody understand what I'm talking about, that's the term I'm going to use. Where this religion came from, very quick history. African slaves were forced to brought to Cuba by the Spaniards, and the Spaniards wanted to convert the entire world to Catholicism, right? So what happened? The Africans didn't want to convert to Catholicism. They had their own beliefs and their own version of God and their own da-da-da-da-da-da. So what they did was they found Catholic saints who mirrored the same qualities of their African saints. So when they would pray saying Santa Barbara, but they were really praying to Chango, which is their African saint. Where they would say out loud, oh, La Caridad de Cobre, you know, Our Lady of Charity, but they would really be praying to Ochun. Moral of the story. That's how Santeria was born. It was the mesh and the mix of the two cultures of Catholicism and the Yoruba tribal religion, right? Okay. So, I don't know if you know this. I was inspired to start writing a comic book about a year ago.
Cool.
What happened? I started going down this rabbit hole of how old my religion really is. And it's tens of thousands of years old. So much so that there's ancient texts that depict the saints of my religion going to Egypt and getting these secrets from Egypt and bringing them to Nigeria. So I went deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. And I found that, wait a minute, okay, so in Egypt, so they call him Horus in Egypt. Oh, but in my religion, he was an Obatala. Oh, but Obatala wasn't my religion. Okay, but he's Zeus in Greek. Oh my God, but he's Odin for the Norse. And then he's, Marduk for this. Moral of the story, I don't want to go down the whole thing.
Everything's interconnected.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Everything is interconnected. Absolutely. And I mean, if we want to go, you said 10,000 years ago, the oldest knowledge that we have is the Vedas, which is 10,000 years old in scriptures. And pretty much all belief systems have come from these, derived from these Vedas. We can really go into it and we can really see how everything is interconnected, as you're saying. Right. But the thing about the Vedas, because I had gone when the pandemic happened, I was like, I need answers. What the hell is going on? And so I started reading the Bible. And I wanted to really know what is going on, like what's happening with the world. And when I was reading the Bible, I was like, I want to read what Jesus said. And then through the whole Bible, it was a very little amount of what Jesus said. And then the rest of the Bible is what people heard him say. So it's the disciples, what they heard him say.
So third person, right?
And then also, when I was reading the Bible, I was also, as a woman, searching for my identity in it. Like, where is the woman of the Bible? Where is Virgin Mary? Where is Mary Magdalene? Like, where is the woman? Because this has been a confusing thing for me. Since most of the modern religions, one of the things that they do is that they actually first take out the woman. In the Vatican, women cannot go in. Sometimes even in synagogues and temples, women can sometimes not go in. So it's like Islam, I mean, we know how the women go. So a lot of the modern religions have this thing where they put the woman on the side. And me, as a very spiritual girl, and as a girl looking for, seeking the knowledge of, like, okay, where is my space, my space? And in the Bible, I couldn't find it. I was raised Catholic, but I couldn't find anything when I was really seeking it. And then I came into the Vedas. And in the Vedas, there's some massive secrets. And one of the biggest secrets is that God is actually in love with a woman. But of course, this will be scandalous, scandalous that Jesus Christ, who's a master, can be in love with a woman. Even when you say el nombre del Padre, el Hijo, el Espíritu, ¿dónde está la mamá? There's no mom. There's no woman. There's no nothing. So when I heard this and I started reading in the Vedas that God is actually in love with a woman, and that God is not just a man or a woman, God is a divine couple. And through this divine couple, everything gets created just like we are. The reason why everything is a dualistic nature is because there is a dual divinity.
Adam and Eve.
Exactly. We can say Adam and Eve. So this, when I started, I found my identity. I found, like, okay, this is where the women are at. This is where the women are being worshipped. And by the Vedas, it says where women are being worshipped, that's where the gods reside. So my seeking of truth really, and if you are a seeker of truth, eventually you will end up in these very ancient scriptures. And I'll tell you, that's the only thing that makes the mind calm down. When you read about these topics, I'm sure when you were, like, doing the whole research about Santeria, your mind was like, "Oh my God, I'm eating this up. This is so awesome."
Because I don't look to poke holes in anything. I look for connections.
Absolutely.
A friend of mine who's a devout Christian, and Kevin, I love you. We talked about that the other day because I completely respect and listen. I'm including the Bible in my seeking of wisdom.
Of
like,
course.
Because the Bible's a holy book and I respect that, and there's tons of wisdom to extract from it.
Absolutely.
There's other books where wisdom can be extracted, though, and I look for similarities. I don't look to disprove what you believe in, and I look to prove all of it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it was kind of similar for me. Like, yeah, I went down that rabbit hole, but then I would read the Bible, and I would read the Torah, and I would read, scriptures from Buddhism. Like, I would bring it all together, and it all made sense. Like, I could see the piece of each piece of the puzzle.
Yes.
Of where all of it goes.
And in reality, like, our soul is looking for that connection
100%.
once again. A connection with something divine. I mean, I gotta say, like, before I had my connection, before I wanted to make a deep, intimate relationship with God, and I wanted to feel Him close to me. Not some universe, some light, something that is so far from me. Because that's also not cool. Like, it's like, okay, well, God's there, but I don't know if He cares about me. I don't know if I'm even anything.
Right.
No, like, let's make a deep connection. He's your best friend. He's your lover. He's your father. Like, these deep connections. And when we have these deep connections, then miracles start happening. Right. But before I had this deep connection, man, I could say, there's just so much suffering, dude. Like, when you first met me, when you said, like, oh, it's a different person. Yes, I was a different person. I was a girl that didn't have God in her. And one of the things, and this is actually in the Bhagavad Gita in the first chapter, it talks about how, like, the society's evolution, the spiritual evolution of society is actually on the hands of women and women's chastity. So that's the reason why women need to be protected. Because women are actually easily degraded. And what I mean by easily degraded, women are just, we have such a giant heart. We're so loving. We want to be loved. That here comes a guy and it's like, come here, baby. Don't worry. I got you. I'm going to protect you. Don't worry. Take this pill. Take this thing. Take this, that. Just drink this drink. And, like, the girls, we just do it. We just do it. We just do it. Because Because we're naive. There's a little bit of naivete about women, and that's not a bad thing. It is the divine feminine. It's meant to have that lovey quality. We're not meant to be harsh women. Nobody likes a bitch. Nobody. Nobody likes an angry girl. Nobody likes a controlling woman. Nobody likes a woman that is like defending herself. People like a woman that is delicate, soft, gentle. But in that delicacy, she needs to be protected. So why? Even in the Bhagavad Gita says, if they're not protected, then they're easily degraded. And if they're easily degraded, then you will have children that you don't want to have. Babies that you don't want to have will be born. And when these babies are being born, that's when society completely collapses. That's when society starts going down. Because we're raising children, we're getting children that we don't even want. So you see how like it is so crucially important if we want our society to be more spiritually advanced or even just advance in morals. And in reality, like the woman holds the standard, you know? Like, let's say you want to get with me, and if I have the standard here, you're going to have to meet me there. But if I'm like, oh, no, I'm here, like, then I'm not doing a favor to any man. Like I am a full responsible woman. Like, I don't want to just blame the guy and be like, oh, the guy did that, and the guy didn't give, and the guy is, like, oppressing me, and the guy is doing this. Well, guess what? Every single guy came out of a vagina. Every single human being has come out of a woman. It is our responsibility to teach these things. Every single one. So we can't just blame the guy, blame everybody, blame society. Like, don't throw your power away like that, girl. Don't do it. Like, own your power and be like, no, I'm the one who holds the standard of society. And when you do that, the men, boom, they rise up. The reason why men are being so, like, degraded is because women are being degraded.
I agree. When women have high standards and men are forced to meet those standards, we rise to the occasion. I couldn't agree more.
And that's why, love it.
Yes.
The men likes that.
Of course.
The man is like, yo, I want to know what I'm made out of. If you leave it easy for me, of course I'm going to take it because I am a thief. Men naturally have that energy of like, hey, you made it easy for me. Why not? Like, and that's just human. But what is, like, we can help society, women. We can help them. You keep your standard high, and if the guy loves you, he will meet you there.
100%.
And then, even though you make it hard for him, he'll be so happy. He'll be so happy. He'll be like, wow, this woman...
As happy as possible, yeah.
This woman made me be a better person. This woman was like, listen, I don't hang out with you because you smoke cigarettes. Punto. When you stop smoking cigarettes, talk to me. And through love, this is when men actually move through love. So if we're doing it too easy for them, you're not doing a favor. Because women think this. It's like, oh, you know, I want to be the cool chick. I want to just be so cool with him. And it's like, you just end up totally babying him, weakening him. And then we have the women complaining about the man. How, like, the woman now is the man, the girl, the everything. And you have turned your man into a child.
Agreed. Because we don't have to work for anything.
Exactly.
If a woman doesn't have standards, then men don't have to. They literally don't have to do much. And if men don't have to do much, and women don't have standards, you have no society. Literally, men build, women set the standards, and if neither one of those two are met, then you have nothing.
Absolutely.
That's why society is collapsing. Literally, that's why we're witnessing the fall of Rome.
Absolutely.
Women don't have standards, and men have become weak. So it goes hand in hand. You know?
Absolutely.
Women are the backbone, right? They support us. So it's like, if that backbone is strong and solid, then the man can take on any task and can do anything, literally anything. But if that backbone is weak, you turn into a jellyfish. What strength does a jellyfish have? None, because it has no backbone.
So what is a weak woman? Because then we have a misconception that, oh, if you're a weak woman, that means that you're dependent, and you ask, and you don't work, and it's like, no, these things don't make us weak. What makes us weak is that, you know, what makes a woman weak? Trying to be controlling. Everybody runs away from her. Nobody wants a woman that's controlling.
The illusion of control, right?
The illusion of control. I
have a dear friend of mine. She's a stunningly beautiful woman. an amazing businesswoman, very good person. Like whatever she sets her mind to, she gets it done. She's a warrior. She doesn't back down from nobody. Very strong. And I love that about her. But sometimes it goes a bit too far, right? And I see her and I'm like, man, you're trying to control everything. And control is an illusion. You're not controlling anything. You're literally controlling nothing. All you're doing is eating away at your own sanity and your own health, literally, with this need to control.
And it happens because then she gets frustrated with the guy. Oh, but you're not doing it right. You're not. Well, mama, you made him into a baby. So what do you expect now? You made him into a little baby that follows you around like a little puppy dog who you do everything for him because apparently he can't do it alone. And you know why this is happening too? Because women are not having children. So they end up babying. It comes out biologically. It's like, I need to baby something. So they end up babying the partner.
It's funny how one thing leads to another, and it's not like you don't think of it at first, but you just do a little critical thinking, and you see how things are connected, and it's like, oh, that's why that's happening, you know?
Yes. That's why it's amazing to honor the divine feminine and the divine masculine. This is that I'm talking about, that God is not just a one. God is dual. God is relationship.
Duality is universal.
Yeah. Yes. And so there is a divine masculine, there is a divine feminine, and these things are meant to be honored, not meant to be, let me reinvent the wheel, you know? I'm just going to reinvent the wheel of a millennial of truth because I just fucking feel like it. Like, no. It is good to honor. And if you get into alignment with nature, nature will give you everything you want.
Agreed. Which is another reason why things aren't working out nowadays, because we're trying to defy nature. And it's like, dude, good luck. You're trying to defy billions of years of evolution. Good luck, bro.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's... humans, we're just so arrogant, bro.
It's because we think we're God.
The arrogance of some humans. Oh, no, I know. What do you know, bro? We've been figuring out life since the day we came on this planet, and we're still figuring it out. What the fuck do you know? You don't know a fucking thing, bro. You're going to sit here and tell me you know more than, I don't know how many ancestors and how many other people's ancestors and how many millions of people came before you. Guess what, buddy? There's no original thoughts.
No.
You know jack shit. And the day I had that realization, I was like, wow, okay. So I don't know anything.
And that's humor. That's humbling. And it's freeing.
I love reading about ancient civilizations because it makes you realize, like, the problems we've always had are the problems we've always had. We're going to continue to have them most likely, but we think we're unique and we're not. Socrates was considered the wisest man in the world, right? Socrates was like, no, there's no way. I'm going to make it a point to find the wisest man in the world because I am not the wisest man in the world. So he went out and he talked to philosophers and scientists and teachers and wise men. He scoured ancient Greece, right? And the oracle, mind you, this was a message that came from the oracle of Delphi. She was the one that declared, you are the wisest man in the world. So he made it a mission. He's like, no, there's no way. There's no way. And then after scouring the earth, he said, wow, I am the wisest man in the world because I'm the only man willing to admit that I know nothing.
Wow. There you go. There you go. Absolutely.
He always asked questions. He was always searching.
And it's like people forget that you want to get higher and higher, you bow down lower and lower.
Agreed.
And you get higher and higher.
The more you know that you know nothing.
Yes. And, you know, I love that you're bringing this thing up about the times. So I do want to talk a little bit about the times because this is something that we don't understand, like the time, the era that we live right now. This was actually written in the Vedas that we are in an age called Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga started 5,000 years ago. So all the modern religions that we have are Kali Yugan religions. So this is the thing. Just how like the planet Earth has seasons, a winter, a summer, a fall, and a spring, so does our solar system. It has the same thing. So right now we're going into the winter of our solar system, which is Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is a time, and this was written in the Vedas, that it's a time of hypocrisy, it's a time of quarrel, and it's a time where human beings are only inspired by their genitalia.
Sounds familiar. Jesus. Our obsession with other people's sexuality is
yes.
Is
They're obsessed
so
with
stupid.
their genitalia. They're obsessed with their genitalia, and all their intentions of life has to do with their genitalia. Like I want to have sex, or my genitalia wants that, or I want this. It's all this vain pleasure, and it is a degraded time. It is a time where just society degrades. Why? Because there's only 25% of the population that want to be spiritual, and so the morale and the spiritual consciousness is very low, very, very low. And we are all trapped in it. Before this era, of course, it was like the golden era, the silver era, and like the ancestors were so much wiser, so much more righteous. Naturally, they were born like this. They weren't born with these feelings of, I want to do bad. Like, they weren't born with these things. They were born naturally righteous. And because of that, they actually lived longer. They were bigger as well. So that's why we find these skeletons of giants, and we're like, where are these giants coming from? It's because back in those times, people were bigger and they lived for thousands of years. That's why you also see in the Bible, Abraham lived for 600, 1,000 years. It's because it's closer to that era called the Dwarpa Yuga. So Dwarpa Yuga was right before Kali Yuga, and now we're in Kali Yuga, and Kali Yuga is 432,000 years, and we're only 5,000 years in. And the last time we had a Kali Yuga was when the dinosaurs happened. By the end, everybody was just turned into a dinosaur and dead. Yeah,
Everybody was dead.
Exactly. So it's I say this not to, oh my gosh, we're in a terrible era. I say this so that we can liberate ourselves from this idea that we have to save the world. Like
the world's in a cycle.
It's in a cycle. It's in a cycle, and it's in a cycle of degradation right now. And the best thing you can do is just save yourself. Like, you do your spiritual practice. You find peace within yourself, and that's the best thing you can do. But this idea like, let me go save the environment. Let me go save the world. Let me go save that planet. Let me go save those people. Let me go save this group of people. Like, no.
Through self-healing, you're helping them because we're all connected.
Absolutely.
Everything is connected. People are mistaken when they're like, "Oh, you only care about yourself." No. When an airplane's about to crash, you have to put on your own oxygen mask before you try to help somebody else. Why? Because if you die, you can't help anybody. And that's what you're doing when you work on yourself and you develop yourself as a person, as a human being, spiritually and physically and mentally, and in every aspect. Whatever tickles your fancy, you should do all of them. But hey, if you don't improve and become the example that other people can look at and say, wow, look at what they did.
Exactly.
Because
especially an example to your son, to your child.
Most of all, 100%.
Because that's the future of humanity.
When I was really little, I remember my father, he didn't, obviously later I was a child, right? Like, so I found out certain things about my father, and it wasn't, like, I think everybody has that moment as a kid where they're like, oh my God, my father's a superhero, I love him. And you have this ideal version of what your father is, and then you find out who he really is, and you're kind of disappointed.
Yeah.
I'm past that now. I've accepted that he's human, obviously.
Exactly.
And I still love him, and he's my father. But I think every human has that. Like, you revere your parents as these deities, and you find out they're just human, and they have, flaws just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what I strive to be. It's not about nagging people and telling them what to do. It's about being the example. I don't have to tell you anything. Look at how I try to live my life. And if it's something you think is admirable, then I might inspire you to do the same.
Yeah. But the best thing is when you actually do it for your children. Like, that's where the children are really needed. My mom, she's a case manager. Oh my gosh. Like, she's a case manager where she actually, rehabilitatizes people from immigrants that are crossing the border to kind of come here and everything. She's in the front lines with these people. And it's heavy. Like, these people literally just grabbed the child or got pregnant right before crossing the border. And they're not caring about the child. They're just caring because they need to come and grab and stuff. And when she gets there to, like, okay, I'm trying to get you into society, organize you, put you in order and all these things, she sees that the kids are just completely abandoned, and that they're just like, and my mom tells me, it's like, it's really sad because some of these kids are not going to come back. Like, that's the thing. It's like the trauma. Okay, Nelson, I got to teach you something that I recently learned, like that it was mind blowing. I was like thinking, I'm like, why is the whole world so psychologically traumatized? You seen that? We're all psychologically traumatized. We all have the wound. We have a wound. We have this, and and we even become friends because we have the same wound, and we identify ourselves with our wound. I was raped. I was this. I was abused. I was this other thing, and we don't let it go. We become professional victimizers. Professional. I'm the victim.
Because we're rewarded for being victims nowadays.
Exactly. We get rewarded for being victims.
Instead of facing your problems, confronting your demons, right? And getting past them and becoming a better person, society's rewarding people for being victims.
Absolutely.
Who's faced with the most difficulty? Who has the biggest issue? Who has the most trauma? So we can, rally around, put a seat.
See.
Oh my God. See. And it's like, dude, what does that solve? You get a bunch of attention and then what?
Are you really helping them?
No, you're enabling them.
Thank you. And this is something that is happening a lot just overall all over the world. It's like, okay, we want to empower people, but we don't. Even Jesus Christ said, it's like, don't give them the fish. Teach them how to fish. How to fish. Even yes. Jesus said this. So we are in this attitude of being in this, I'm poor. Oh, help me. And it's like, we're not really helping people to become more independent, to become more empowered in their own selves. And it's really degrading the world. And these families act like this with my mom, and this is exactly what the children are learning. From a little age, they're already learning that they're victims, that they need to ask, and it's very, very, very sad. So yes, we need to learn that sometimes the best help is not helping, because maybe God at that moment is about to deliver a lesson for this person. God at that moment is about to give them a lesson and say, hey, stop doing that. Do it another way. And we rob them from that. But I came to understand how it is that we can get rid of trauma. Because I was really thinking, I'm like, how can we get rid of this massive trauma? I mean, yes, we know we cannot control things in the world. Sometimes we're going to have death, sometimes some accidents, sometimes whatever, God forbid. But yeah, we can control things that happen in the world. So what can we do to be more psychologically resilient so that not everything is a victim and this, oh my God, now I'm traumatized. Oh my God, now I'm traumatized. And more disempowering. And I came to find out, Nelson, that the only way to become more psychologically strong, it's through having principles and morals. That's your shield. If you don't have principles and morals, you will be abused and you will be traumatized. When you go out in the world, you will be traumatized. Your morals is the definition of your boundaries. Can we, like this idea of boundaries? Everybody talks about, be firm with your boundaries. Women, be firm with your boundaries.
Most people don't even know what that means.
What is a boundary? How do we define a boundary?
Most people don't have any. That's the issue, right?
Because boundaries are defined by values.
And nowadays we're defined by emotion. And emotions
they're temporary.
They're not even real.
No, it's a temporary moment.
At the end of your feelings, there's nothing. But at the end of a principle, there's a promise that, okay, I will hold myself and the people around me to a standard.
Exactly.
And it is not acceptable to go below this standard. I will not accept it.
And if you try to go below that standard, I will get mad. That's where we show mad. So it's this normalizing degradation, like normalizing degrading society, normalizing being extremely immoral. Almost defend them. You know what? Let's put the law behind them and say, yeah, you know what? They can also be immoral. Let's defend their immorality. And it's like, it's okay. It's okay. And so all that we're doing is enforcing people's egos and entitlements to the next level, dude. To the point that now you can't even say anything because if the ego gets upset, this person might just sue me.
100%.
Oh, if I stepped on your ego, what you think you are, you think you're not. Okay, now, like. And so this political correctness, this, let's normalize that everybody's shameful. Like, let's be shameless. Let's be shameless. Why do we have to live in a world where we have to have shame of it? No, let's be shameless. And so it's like this shamelessness. And if somebody comes and says, hey, cover yourself, like have some dignity, they're like, oh, how dare you? How dare you? Because we are normalizing degrading ourselves.
100%.
And, astrologically, we're about to have a massive revolution on this. And this is the reason, all of these values are directly connected to economy. If you want to see what is the physical reaction of inner morals and principles is money. The person who has more morals and principles will be more confident in themselves because they have nothing to hide. They're not, it's like what you get is what you see with me. And I'm real. And those are the people that people trust to pay them. Now, of course, you're going to come and tell me, oh, but there's a lot of bad people who get away with things. Of course, they get away with things. But guess what? At the end of the day, God will show the light. Sooner or later, your secret will come out. Even if you take it to the grave, it will come out.
You can't. It's funny how people think they can keep secrets.
Like the truth, what is the truth of a secret? That it's going to get caught. That's going to be
It's
revealed.
inevitable.
It's inevitable.
Even if you die, you take it to your grave. I mean, ultimately, what's bigger than, than whatever you believe in? You know what I mean? Than God or the universe or the force that you're going to be judged one day. So there's really no secrets. It's all, this world that we live in it's such an illusion. You know what I mean? It's all based on smoke and mirrors, and your thoughts are meant to betray you and make you think certain things and feel certain ways. Your thoughts and your emotions most of the time aren't even yours.
No, and they're temporary. You see, if we identify ourselves with our thoughts or our bodies, we're going to be hurting.
100%.
We're going to be suffering. And, I know I may sound very radical in my love for God, but this is the thing. Like, I realized that, like, before having God in my life I was just being abused at every moment. I was unhappy in my relationships. I was unhappy with myself. I was unhappy in so many ways because I really, especially for women, I really feel like women really, really are looking somewhere where they can put their eggs. Like even when you fell with your father, like you have this idol and you don't want your eggs to be broken. Like it's like such a disillusionment. And I feel like this happens a lot in relationships. It's like, okay, I found this person. I'm putting all my eggs in this basket. And they get broken. They get broken because things happen. We're mortal. They're going to get broken. And then so now people are so afraid to put commitment on each other that they're like, I don't even want to put my eggs in this basket, but I still want to have sex with you, but I'm going to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And it's like this weird thing.
And it's like a table with 3 legs.
Yes.
And it falls apart.
And so everybody wants to have like something that they can really count on. And after I went through a very massive breakup in 2020, a massive breakup with this terrible relationship of 5 years where all the gender roles were completely twisted. And I was the one taking care, and he was like pretty much like, my puppy. And it was horrible because I didn't have admiration for him. And listen, girls, when you don't have admiration for your man, it's fucked. It's fucked. You need to admire your man somewhat. If you don't admire him, you eat him up. Get away. You don't know how to do this. And she does it. And he totally enables the man. And the man, imagine, he becomes totally demasculinized. So the man's not happy and the woman's not happy. Nobody's happy. Terrible. I got to a point where I really thought, like, oh my gosh, like this is it. Like there is no man out there who actually want to step up in a man role that can put me in a female role. A man that wants to take care of me, provide for me and everything. Like I really thought that there was no man like that anymore and that I better figure it out, make a shitload of money because I'm going to have to take care of a man. And I remember I started dating around and of course, Tinder life, that Tinder BS. I never had Tinder, but it's like that culture of stupidity, that culture of degradation, that culture of losing your dignity pretty much. And I was just like, you know what? Forget this. And a really radical feeling came into me and I was just like, you know what? None of these fucking guys deserves to touch me. None of them. And I made it very clear of what is it that I'm looking for in a man. And I said, it sounds like a unicorn. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to find a man like that in this world, but that's the man. And that's the only one that's worth for me. And if doesn't exist, fuck it. I'll become a nun. I don't care. And it's like when I made that radical decision, I got radical results. And so I say this for like women, don't be afraid. Don't settle. It really, you're not doing a favor to no one. not even to the guy. You're not doing him a favor. If you're settling, you're not doing nobody a favor. And so when I made that radical decision, I was like, this is it. This is what I want. This is what deserves me, and period. And I went through this feeling of like, I don't even want anybody to touch me. I was going through a massive purification of energetical purification, because that's the thing. It's like everybody touches you, everybody grabs you, everybody. And it's like all those things pass on. You know what I mean? Like if you go and hug a guy, you don't know if the guy's feeling your tits above. And like you don't know the energetical changes that happen. You know, that's the thing about women. It's like we don't know how much people are taking from our energy. We don't know. If the woman is not protected, she's being manoseada everywhere. So I made this radical decision. I was just like, you know what? This is what I want. I want a man like this. And the first thing that I asked, I was like, I want a man. I know. In order for me to have that strength, what I did is that I made Jesus Christ my boyfriend. Because then I realized, okay, the only place I can put my eggs is in an eternal basket that is perfect. And the only one that is perfect is God. So I'm putting my eggs in that basket. And I know it ain't gonna break. And I know he's not gonna fuck me up. And I know he's gonna not cheat. And I know that God loves me and he is going to show up for me. And so I put all the eggs in that basket. And then I told God, I want a man. The next man that comes into my life, husband. I don't even want to date. I don't want no boyfriend. I don't want to see if it's gonna go somewhere. Like, no. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of my time, waste of your time. Like, I don't have time to see where this is going to go, okay? I don't have time. I already spent all my 20s doing that bullshit. And nobody asked for marriage. Nobody did anything. Because it's actually even scientifically proven. If you're with a woman for more than 18 months and you haven't asked her to get married, it's done. Most probably you're not going to get married, for real. So I made that radical decision. And then I asked for the man that I wanted. And I said, God, I want a man that teaches me to love you. I want a man that loves you so much that he's going to teach me how to love you. He's going to get me closer to you. And why did I ask for a man that loves God? Because a man who follows the word of God, I don't have to check his phone. I don't have to check his phone to see if he's talking to girls. I don't have to check his phone to see if he's doing some sneaky thing. I don't have to go and see if, like, he knows that there's a correct way of acting and there's a correct way of going about it, and he follows the word of God. And that is what I wanted. I don't have time to be checking your phone, to be teaching you to be moral, to be teaching you to not be a thief and to not, like, no.
It goes back to how we started. When you have principles and morals and ethics, everything else falls into place.
Absolutely.
You have to have standards.
And then women like that. Women like that.
It's just good for it's a foundation.
Exactly.
If you don't, in construction, right? If you're a construction worker, what's the first thing you do? You lay the foundation. And if the foundation is strong, you can build anything. If the foundation is weak, you can't build. And that's just a great metaphor for life. Guys, we're going to hear really quick from our second sponsor, and we'll be right back. Alrighty, guys, taking a quick break from the podcast to bring you a word from our sponsor, Christian J. DePaz. Appreciate him for coming through. He offers a phenomenal service. Guys, you know I'm a big promoter of entrepreneurship, owning a company, starting a business, doing your own thing, and chasing your own dreams. But as the old saying goes, it takes money to make money. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Christian J. DePaz and what he does. He gets funding for new and startup businesses. Christian, tell us a little bit about it.
Thank you so much, bro, for the opportunity to come inside your podcast and help more entrepreneurs start their own business or scale their current businesses. So what we do here at Secure Funding is that we'll help you acquire anywhere between $50,000 to $150,000 at 0% interest rate business credit, so that you can once again start or scale your current business. So if you come here from our good friend Nelson, there's no other you're coming from, then we'll have him at the podcast and we'll take extra good care of you. With that being said, brother, thank you so much for bringing us on.
Of course. What are you waiting for, guys? Click the link in the bio. So, guys, we got a treat for you. Before we started,
we got Nelson's chart over here.
V had me print out my chart.
So charts, listen, I got into astrology because I really wanted to. It's an amazing self-development tool.
Agreed.
It's so that you can know yourself. Socrates, know thyself.
Everything's connected, right? In,
So
in my religion, there's a whole bunch of paths that someone is it's over 200 paths in life and self-discovery. Everything is connected. Continue.
absolutely. And so I love natal charts. Like charts are really an imprint of your soul's path. So it's not meant for people to take their power away. It's meant for you to empower yourself with it. So this is how we use astrology in the correct ways, because there's some people who think that, oh, it says already in my chart, so I don't have to do anything. No, no, no. All of these energies are dormanted, and if you don't take action, then it's not going to give fruits. So we have here, you're an ascendant Libra. In Vedic astrology, you're an ascendant Libra and your sun is in Cancer. This is for Vedic astrology, which is more ancient than Western astrology. Funny enough, you're talking about Socrates. Socrates learned a lot because he went to India and then he came back. And then Pythagoras that invented the Pythagorean theorem.
He found it.
He found it in India. And then he came and he's like, oh, it's the Pythagorean theorem. We do this all the time as Westerners. We are not very good at giving credit.
No, we're great at stealing, though.
We're good at stealing. And most of it comes from the East. So you are a Libra. So this is the part of you that is extremely public relations.
Yeah.
Everybody perceives you as somebody, perfect public relations. He knows how to talk to people. He knows how to get people together, getting everybody together. So that's your part that is very sociable and very diplomatic. You're quite the diplomat. You know how to find ways to make everybody happy, which is very nice. It's funny that you mentioned that you are meant to be doing podcasting. Yes, I do see this. We have the planet of Mercury, communication, in your house of career. So it does deal with communication. It does deal with sending some sort of message. We also have the sun, which is leadership. You are meant to be very leader in your sector of career. And then we also have your destiny in the third house of communication again. So there is a lot of, you are meant to be a self-made person. You are meant to really put a lot of effort in the things that you do and be self-made. Now, funny enough, in your past life, get ready for this. You were a gangster.
Whoa. Ladies and gentlemen, it all makes sense now.
Yes.
My obsession with the gangster flicks. Oh, my God. It all makes sense now. You see that? Okay, cool.
You were the little gangster. You were a little gangster.
Right.
Like you were very, you could outwit anybody.
Okay.
And so your mind is very like it's always making the tricky. It's always making the plan. It's always making like some way, somehow and stuff. So this is that part of you that is a little bit like a gangster mind. And that is from your past life. Now, also with this gangster life, there could have been some sort of atheistic energy about you, where it was
Doesn't sound like me, but okay.
It was more scientific. You were like very scientifically oriented. So you were like, if I don't see it, I don't believe it. Like, show me. Okay?
Interesting.
Now in this life, there is actually something really big for you to bring a message, and you are meant to have a very powerful interaction with God. Like to have, like to meet with God in this life. So you literally have in your here, your destiny aspect, kind of what I call from the streets to God's arms.
All right. Sounds from God to the streets. That sounds like the name of a movie or something.
From the streets to God's
From
arms.
the streets to God's arms. Yeah.
And all the things that, maybe when you were playing little tricks, trying to outwit the system and outwit things, because you have this karmic energy, it was like, no. But all of that is to help you discover God more and more, to have this righteous energy that we're talking about. You really have that very strong. Now, your moon is in Capricorn. This is your serious vibe.
Okay.
And it was because your mother was serious. Your mother could have been not the most cuddly person. She was just like a serious, like, come on, you're going to be big. Like, maybe you even had to grow up. You had to grow up fast.
Sounds like me.
You had to maybe be very adult, very mature at a very fast age.
I tell people that my mother taught me how to be a man. It's an interesting thought when I phrase it like that, but she did. She taught me how to be on time, how to be responsible, be a man of your word, don't lie. She taught me a lot of good things.
Good. That's what a mama's supposed to tell. That's what a mama's supposed to do. And we have here Jupiter and Venus in your house of gains, very good, and in working in groups, which is very fantastic. And this could get you a lot of money, actually. And it deals with showcasing yourself and everything. And it also shows that your wife is going to be a Leo.
Another Leo. 2 Leos, huh?
Well, she's going to be in September. Well, this is a Vedic, so she'll be a Virgo in Western.
Okay. So it's different. The dates are different. Okay.
It moves a little bit.
Okay.
So you are born in August. She will be born in September.
So a Virgo. That makes sense.
That's your girl. Don't even try it. You see, this is the thing about astrology. What I really like is that you find your husband, you find your wife, you find your weakness, everything, your destiny, and all the answers. But the one that everybody's looking for is love. And sometimes we keep trying different partners, and it's like, no. I married my father off at 65 years old with astrology.
Wow.
My father had gone from women and women and women and just not landing. I'm like, Dad, give me your chart. And then I'm like, you need a woman from this month, this year. That's it. That's the girl for you. And some way, somehow, he manifested this woman. And I remember when he married her, 6 months after seeing her, he looked at me and he said, wow. This was literally the only time I actually wanted to be married. And it's because it's turning that part on in your chart.
Cool.
So that's one of the things about astrology, like is to make your life easier and to find some answers. And the way that I do my readings is very inspirational and motivational. That's the way I like to do it. I don't like to, I know there's a lot of brujos that is like, ooh, I see some. Ooh, you better pay me a little bit more because if not, like, ooh.
It's a whole another thing. In our culture, in our side of the tracks, it's, oh my God, don't get me started on that, on the fear porn.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got to be careful with that.
Yeah.
And that's for everybody. Like, if you ever get a reading and you end up feeling sad or weird or scared, that was not a good reading. That was not good.
Agreed.
Thank you so much.
It was great having you.
Thank you so much,
This was a ton
Nelson.
of fun.
It was super fun. Thank you so much, Nelson, for being here.
I usually wrap up the episode asking 3 questions. So
Ask me the 3 questions.
First question. What inspires you?
God.
That's such a big concept, man. That's such...
You know what inspires me? How can God teach me to truly love? Because I feel like love of this material world is not really love. It's too conditional. It's very difficult to find real love.
I feel like when you're really loving, like when you're really putting the love energy out there, it's coming from a really deep place.
Yes.
It's coming from a place you can't even explain. And that's why when you really love somebody unconditionally, I'm going to tell you, I don't think I've ever told this to anybody. It's actually, it's written in my prison journal. I never really understood unconditional love until I was in prison and I was visited for the first time by my niece. And my niece, in spite of me being in prison, in spite of me fucking up my entire life, she saw me and I was her uncle and she just ran up to me and gave me this big hug. She was so happy to see me. She didn't understand any of the men's rules and what is this? To her, it was nothing. And she just ran up to me and gave me the biggest hug because she hadn't seen me in like 6 months. And in that moment, I understood, like, man, that's unconditional love. Like, this little girl will love me no matter how bad I fuck up my own life, no matter how bad I hurt the people around me, no matter what society labels me as, this little girl's going to love me until the day I die. And that's really, like, that's when I remember going back to my cell or my room and I was like, man, I understand now. It's not about loving people if you do this and if they act this way. It's no, you got to love them anyway. And that unconditional, without conditions. Bro.
So that's what inspires me. It's like I pray to God that teach me how to love. Teach me how to do it right with my brothers and my sisters and the people around me, because the hardest thing to do is to love.
It's a hard choice because we get hurt, people betray us, they lie to us, and you kind of have to choose to love them anyway and hope the best for them in spite of what they do to you.
Yeah, with boundaries. With boundaries?
Yeah, but that...
Like if somebody's hurting you, like, okay, you can put a boundary, but you can still love them.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, not like forgiving and moving on and loving them anyway.
Absolutely.
It's a hard choice.
Absolutely.
Second question, what's next for you?
Next for me, I am actually launching a book.
Oh,
I'm going to be launching my first
you have a
book.
good friend who's an author, so if you need help.
Nice. Perfect. I'm going to be launching my book, and my book is specifically written for women. And it has been inspired by all the research that I have done on the goddess, and also to bring an identification to women through a very strong source of spiritual content. And my mission right now is to really help women rise into their divine feminine. After being an astrologer for 13 years and giving thousands of readings, I have so much collected data of the things that are hurting women right now, which are the things that are hurting society. And we're not happy. We're not happy because we're not in our divine feminine, and men are not happy because they're not in their divine masculine. So this book is to help women, not the dark fatale, because that's like the new upcoming thing. Oh, be the dark femme. Like, no. Actually, men really love purity. They really do. Like, it's not the wretched woman and the most, like, degraded woman. Yeah, she grabs a lot of attention, but a man will never marry a woman like that. A man naturally marries something that has more of that chastity, that purity. Because a man also needs to know that, okay, I'm marrying you, and you're not just going to go away with the same first guy that runs away. Like, you have some chastity within you. So I really feel that right now, we need to really rise women with our chastity, because guess what? We're going to be out of work. If your only work is to sell your body yourself, when AI comes, it's done. It's done. So we need to start figuring something deeper within ourselves that is not just physical. It's not just my thing. Like, like I am a divine woman because I am a divine feminine, because I can raise children and give them something that nobody else can give them. There is not most important job in the world than to raise the next humanity.
100%.
This is the most important job.
It's funny when I hear women say, "Oh no, because we're not treated equally and we have no power." You have the most important job and the most power of all. You create all the fucking people.
You got the pussy power. How much more power do you need? How much
Seriously,
more power do you need?
You've created all the people that have ever existed. Like, what's more powerful than that? You dictate the future and past of humanity, literally.
Yeah.
So
so this is a book for women to step into their matriarch, not because we're forcing, not because we're being men, but because we're really stepping into our divine feminine. So that's my next move.
Well,
and get pregnant. That's my other next move. I want to be a mama.
Man, that's a whole nother. Anyway, yeah, well, we're reaching the end, so we can't get into that. But anyway, I wrote a book, so if you need any help, count on me.
Lovely.
And then the last question: how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as the servant of the servant of the servant of God.
I love that.
That's what I want to be remembered as. I want to be remembered as the one who is serving a higher cause, who is serving those that are serving God. I chased, I don't know if you met me, I was chasing to be an actress, I was chasing to be famous, I was chasing to do all these things, and it's like, there's no glory if it's not with God, you know? And I just prefer to do my purpose. Like, that's what a human is. I am the servant of God. I'm not God. I am here to do his will. And I love it. Like, that gives me purpose, gives me light. And then I also see within myself, it's like, wow, he made me exactly the perfect being to be his warrior. And so I want to be remembered as that.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
We'll do this again
Thank you so
sometime.
much, Nelson.
Of course.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Alrighty, guys. Another episode of the Montana Mentor Podcast with your host, Nelson. Special guest, Vino Dini. Thank you so much for coming. Alrighty, guys. Push it to the limit. The world is yours. If you're not chasing a dream, life is meaningless. Say goodnight to a bad guy. Peace.
I've been out here hustling all my life. Every day we get into it. Really out here in these streets. That's day and night. Like there's nothing to it. When I was going through it, dog, I never got your call. I never asked for nothing, no. But now I want it all. I promise I'ma do it. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from from rags to riches. Rags to riches, came from rags.